And we are live. Welcome to the stream. Troy Francis and James Tusk. I'm just trying to go live on Instagram. It's always a bit, right, I think we're live on Instagram now as well. So streaming to both of our channels. Troy Francis with my D and my H in London as usual, perpetually. And James is now in Mexico City. So you're running a boot camp over there, aren't you, right now? With the guys,
yes.
So how's all
the
that
opening
going?
scene? The opening scene of Skyfall, James Bond,
Yeah.
Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, the Mexican Halloween is kicking off in Mexico City. So we're here with a couple of clients. Going to be charging around today, seeing what's up, and really good actually. Success story from yesterday. A guy who has, I didn't realise. So you obviously know, we can say the name.
Yeah.
Who he is. From he was, went to Garcia's thing recently, Joe, this older guy. I didn't realise he'd been around the block with the stuff. So he originally actually trained with Torero in London way back in the day.
Oh, did he? Oh,
around
right.
the same year. Okay. Around the same year, I did a boot camp. So he's been there, done that. He then moved to Mexico City. Back to New York City and went relentless with the day game stuff. But then COVID killed it. So he's kind of getting back into it now. We're in. You remember in Mexico City that kind of nice shopping mall, Antara.
Yeah.
So we walk around there. We kind of sent him in, and he approached a really hot Argentinian guy.
Yeah.
And he sent me a voice note this morning on a flight. He goes, "Yeah, it was awesome, man. I didn't sleep with her. It was awesome to get the ball rolling again because we went on a date. She was 30 years younger than me, and all the bar was looking at her because she's a stunner, and played the question game, and it was going really well, and we're going to see each other again." So it just goes to show the power of being fucking social. And I actually sat down at the end of the second session yesterday. He was like, "I feel really good now," because he came out dragging his feet a bit. And I was like, well, emotions change, right? State changes. So even if you feel like shit and that very antisocial, which we all tend to do at times, the best thing you can do is walk out the fucking house and just start talk to a few girls.
Yeah.
And he, we recorded a video around that, but he was kind of like, I've got to anchor that feeling because we're so bogged around by feelings, aren't we? And we've got to be. I mean, I've been a slave to my emotions most of my life, my impulse, and we want to be the emotional drug dealer. We want to be quite psychopathic with our own feelings, not be swayed by them, but then induce certain states, clients or women, when it comes to dating, right? And but it was interesting. It was good to see him get a positive result.
Well,
not an HIV.
That's really. I mean, 30 years younger is no mean feat by any means. But I mean, it is.
What do you mean? That's standard breakfast, lunch, and dinner, isn't it? 30 years younger.
I suppose it is. I mean, this is the thing, because I mean, this isn't the avenue we're going to go down. But I mean, there's a lot of guys obviously who are sitting around in the West, like me, and sort of saying, I would like to date somebody younger, but it's really difficult here. And yeah, it is in Anglosphere countries. It's sort of generally speaking, it's not socially accepted. It's not that it doesn't happen, but it's not hugely socially accepted. It's not socially normal. You've got to have friendship groups to worry about, blah, blah, blah. These things don't apply so much in some of these other countries like Latin America. Obviously, we've been to Russia before the war, Eastern Europe and stuff like that. Like, it's just less of an issue. So if that is what you want to do, then, it's not a...
Well, who doesn't? Who's really in there going, I really want the 45-year-old woman by my side in a bar on a Friday night than the 25-year-old feminine in the harsh realities of biology. Well, he's from New York, and he said, look, post-COVID, James, it's only been going one way. I can't go out really and approach anymore because I get judged a lot. I feel I get judged a lot. So he's now up stakes. He's kind of bought a place in Playa del Carmen. He's going to be spending a lot of time in Mexico City, Playa del Carmen, Guadalajara, Bogota on purpose because he wants to date young and not be stigmatized, which is totally fair enough.
Well, it has. I mean, and it's partly. I think there would always have been eyebrows raised about it, but I think now it's got into a sort of slightly political correctness thing as well, hasn't it? Where there's this idea that if an older guy is dating a young woman, there's something kind of manipulative about that, or whatever. Which actually, and actually, the theme of this is kind of about understanding female nature, really. Well, that's what we're going to talk about. The truth of the matter is that cuts both ways, because women, even younger women, can also be very manipulative older guys, and there are plenty of older guys who are complete chumps who get rings run around them by.
Well, and of course, one of his
young
original wingmen, you know, who we both know, we were kind of having a laugh about the fact he got absolutely fleeced in Miami, where he took a lady night home.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he's Mr. G's wingman from
okay. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. Interesting.
And they were both sharing the story about how they came from a tough place with dating, or he was sharing it for him and on Mr. G's behalf, because they grew up without a father figure.
Right.
You know, so raised by women, and he said that was a lot of my problems with dating. And I was like, well, to be fair, I mean, my dad was a complete puss. He wasn't dead, but he was just, I didn't learn anything from him either. So I'm not, you know, I think it's very rare to get a strong male role model who your dad.
Well, that was the same for me, because I mean, I had, you know, my father was present for all of my childhood and everything like. Well, actually, apart from one short period, he was present for all of my childhood. But it wasn't like, you know, some of his moves with women were very, very questionable. Let's say, from the perspective that we're coming at it from, and he certainly wasn't giving me sort of John Wayne style advice or anything like that. It wasn't like, hey, and I'm from, you know, I'm obviously Gen X or whatever. I'm from an older generation, and some people who might be learning this stuff. And it wasn't, you know, back in the day, you know, your dad would sit you down and give you a whiskey and tell you what to do and everything. It was never like that for me at all. And that was somebody who had a male presence for most of my childhood growing up. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I think it's a bit of a myth, really. And even before that, were fathers maybe by example, perhaps you could argue people learned. But I don't think, because if you think about going even further back in time, certainly in England, I don't think dads were sitting down with their sons and talking to them about seduction or any of that stuff. I mean,
no. If you look at the Victorian era, right?
It's very repressed.
Even technically, but even say our parents, if I'm calculating, my dad was kind of 1950s, that was when the Disney rom-com kind of era started, right? The pussification of dating from there in the Anglosphere. So my dad wouldn't have got that advice, you know.
Yeah. Well, if anything, I mean, I think when my dad was, I don't know, when he was bringing us, when we were quite young and he was bringing us up, it was like the 80s or whatever. And that was exactly the period. Well, I guess from the 70s maybe, but it was sort of like that was the period when feminism became more mainstream, and, you know, the idea of men, let's say men showing their vulnerabilities, showing your feminine side, all of that really comes from kind of the 80s, really. So it was exactly the point when my dad was bringing us up, and obviously they were influenced by those ideas. So you'd have to go back quite a long way to get to a point where guys were getting this sort of fabled sort of strong male role model means I'm going to be great with women type thing. And I think one person who apparently did have it, and this is a controversial example now for various reasons, is Russell Brand. Because if you read Russell Brand's My Bookie Wookie or whatever it's called, he talks about how his dad was a bit of a player and took him to brothels basically to lose his virginity, which I'm not condoning as a, you know, parenthood strategy, but I mean, obviously that is an example of, I guess, a father literally showing his son the ropes. But I mean, that's an extreme outlier. I mean, most people aren't doing that, you know.
I'd have loved that if my dad had done that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he's not watching. I don't think my father's ever. Well, I don't know. Who knows, right? I'm not sure he's ever dallied in that kind of thing, really. But I mean,
no, I don't think my dad has either.
You know, we've taken things forward. we've taken our family lineage forward in a different sort of a way, I suppose. We were going to talk about female.
So what's the title you put here?
So I understand her instincts, or be destroyed by them, which is quite clickbaity, but there is an element of truth in this, isn't there? And I think that a lot of guys are just sort of blind to the realities of female behaviour, and
what are the main areas they get wrong, or they're unaware of, you think?
Well, when it comes to... I mean, I think one of them is, want to be careful here, because I mean, I think one of the things with the manosphere, which obviously I'm sort of have sort of been somewhat associated with, and obviously both of us really. But I mean, one of the things I think a lot of, to be completely fair, I think a lot of the criticisms that get leveled against women could also be leveled against men. Like if you think about hypergamy, women want the best guy they can get in the dating
100%.
market, or so do guys, right? I mean, if you had the choice between a girl who was average versus a girl who was super hot, you would go for the super hot one. So I think that's just a natural thing. I think the issue is that culturally we've sort of been sold a narrative that women aren't like that. That women are sugar and spice and all things nice, whereas actually really they're as bad as guys, and probably better at hiding it, and also socially better. So in many ways, and there's another thing, I think Robert Greene talks about this, that women, because women don't have physical power so much, not that men should be using physical power in a relationship, because women lack that in general, unless you're a female boxer or something, or a wrestler, then their power, they have soft power. So their power is more Machiavellian. Whereas guys, maybe they've got more physical dominance, but they sometimes we're a bit underdeveloped in terms of the mental skills, So we're sort of playing, we've said it before, we're playing catch up.
Yeah, I think I've jokingly said that men are the physical terrorists, right? We'll go and blow shit up. You don't really see many female suicide bombers, but women are the emotional terrorists, right? If you're unable to hold frame in a relationship, you have rings run around you, and I've had it before with relationships, right? I really let the ball slip, and maybe I don't really want to be in the relationship. I think about my last one quite a lot. I didn't really want to be there. And I was kind of, doing my own thing, and I let the frame, and it got quite toxic. And again, if on me to really have pulled the pin on that, because there was a fear of loss there, sunk cost fallacy, but also it's hard to walk away from someone after 6-7 years, even if it's not right. But definitely by the end, quite disrespectful behavior coming in, and that's the way it's going to be pushed if you're unable to kind of control whole frame and understand like how relationships work. Women are going to keep chipping away at you. They call it in the manosphere death by 1,000 cuts, don't they? Right, the Chinese torture, death by 1,000 concessions, where you kind of give an inch and the girl ends up taking a mile. But really, I think it stems from this mindset of, are you really on your mission, right? Are you really trying to relentlessly level up? I remember Mark Manson in his book Models talking about the only real dating advice is self-development. And if you're a man who's constantly trying to level up across the board, across the sexual market value add, you're trying to get in better shape, you're hitting the gym, you've got a business or two you're working on, you've got a friendship group, you're traveling the world, you're learning to fight, you're learning languages, you're leveling up your playable character, which we should always be doing as a man, because we can, so why not, right? You've got this bit of play, why not make it as attractive as you possibly can in your own image? If you're doing that stuff, in my experience, the kind of dating women take care of itself, because they can just kind of sense. There's I'm just ripping quotes now, but 6 years of challenge, right? There's a great from him saying, life challenges men and women are the bystanders. So if you're deliberately throwing build power into the fire to get better constantly, basically a lot of your relationship problems, I find, historically speaking, are kind of taken care of. Whereas when you take your foot off the gas and you're kind of lounging around, and you can kind of sense there's not much going on there, that's where actually a lot of the trouble seems to arise for me. So
but you could
time to safeguard the relationship,
Yeah, I agree. But and by the way, if guys haven't read it, you should read. It's Practical Female Psychology, isn't it? I think the main guy is Franco, who wrote it. But if you look up Practical Female Psychology, Franco, you'll find probably a PDF of it, or maybe you can buy it somewhere.
It's really a shame it's such a boring. I mean, it's got some great content. It's a shame it's such a boring book, isn't it? Because it's not like I really like reading. I think you're the same. Good game material to be read. Things like articles on Chateau Hatis is actually quite pleasurable. Puru Hotel, chamomile tea, Saturday night, no date.
Obviously.
Dressing gown, but let me get some good game stuff. But it's quite addictive when it's written well. Unfortunately, that book is great info, but it's just really boring.
It is, but it's also quite a long time since I read it, to be honest. But I mean, I think we all remember the basic concept of it, this betaization process that happens within monogamous relationships, where like you say, I mean, the woman, and again, you know, trying to be as non-podcaster yelling at the screen and being anti-women here as possible, but women will sort of, I don't think it's even intentional, but will sort of subconsciously chip away at the guy and sort of reduce him, unless the guy's very resistant to that. But and you know, we were talking, obviously you've had your own experience of this. I've also had experience of this. We were talking about, you know, a relationship I was in where I felt personally that the disrespect, you know, that side of things was starting to amp up, and you know, it got to a point where I thought, I mean, look, I'm no angel, I'm no saint, and arguably a lot of the problems came back to my behaviour in the first place. But then, if the other person is reacting in a way that goes over and above, you start to think, hang on a minute, like you're using stuff as an excuse, but actually the net effects of it is you're still disrespecting me, you're still cutting me down, because there has to be, and this is again, I mean, a mainstream dating truism is trust is very important in relationships, and once you fucked up the trust, I think it is difficult, not for the reasons that you think. Like, it's weird. It's weird. I mean, it's happened to me actually before with a girlfriend from many years ago who, it was a similar kind of thing, because I like a lot of guys, I'm really, really bad at sort of hiding things. So I always end up getting caught. And she caught me on this. It was sort of pre-Tinder and all that stuff, but it was on this sort of like dating app thing. Or
the original was Plenty of Fish, or one of the original.
Well, no. Well, this one was called something like Forget Dinner, and basically it
Forget
meant
dinner straight to the pad.
Yeah, exactly. It meant start having dinner. This is just a hookup thing. That was what it meant. Now, again, in my defence, I wasn't actually really active on the site when I was with her. It was just that I still had the account. I was getting some emails through, blah blah blah. Anyway, she sees it, she finds it. We have a massive argument. We split up for a while. Then we get back together. But the getting back together bit is sort of the mistake, which I've made a few times in my life now, because on the surface, she's like, okay, fine, we'll let this one go. I'll give you a pass. But they never really do. Do you know what I mean? And what happened with her was the relationship just got worse and worse and worse, because she would pick at me for everything. And then it's not just, are you cheating on me? It's like, oh, you're not loading the dishwasher properly, you're doing blah, blah, blah. You know, just everything becomes this argument, because she's saying on the surface, I've forgiven you, but really she's resentful and she's angry and she's hurt. And she's using every excuse to lash out, which is kind of one of the reasons why, in a way, if you do cheat or you get caught doing something dodgy, it's almost better to just sort of say, all right, hands up, yes, I have, and then end the relationship. Because even if you do patch it up, there can still be problems ahead, right?
Yeah, and what most guys will try and do to alleviate that emotional chaos is give the woman more of what she's demanding, so more commitment. But that obviously just makes it worse, because you're essentially rewarding bad behavior, aren't you?
You are, but this is where the sort of the slight ethical thing has come into it for me, because I'm thinking it's really hard to know where the dividing line is, because like, and I don't want to get into naming names here or getting too specific, but I'm thinking, okay, I've been with this person for a while. I've done some undeniably bad shit. Okay, so she has got a point. However, what she's now doing in response to that, I think is going above what's required. You know, if we're going to make a go of this, we're going to make a go of it. If we're not, we're not. Right? You can't say, okay, we're going to make a go of it, but I'm going to needle you about every single little thing forever. You know, because that's just not sustainable. You know, so when you say bad behaviour, it depends how much of a shit you've been, basically. Because I sort of think, well, it was bad behaviour, but then I'd also been bad. So it's sort of, and this is what I've spent in the situation I'm talking about. That's why I spent months, literally thinking about, trying in my head to figure out, like, wait a minute, who's more in the wrong here? You know what I'm saying? And but I think in the end, you know, ironically, what happened again, this is absolutely my experience. As soon as I cleaned up my act, and I mean in lots of different areas, you know, I cleaned up my act, and I was really, there's an expression in AA, keep your side of the street clean, right? I was really keeping my side of the street clean. I wasn't doing anything bad. I was, you know, there was no substance use. There was nothing dodgy going on. And that was when the criticism really started to ramp up. Ironically, like before, when maybe there was a bit of dodgy stuff going on, the criticism was lower. And then when I started being good, the criticism suddenly goes up like this. And it's like, how does that work? I'm giving you what you say you wanted, and you're getting more severe, not less.
100% agree. And actually, the relationship I was in, the first 4 years, I was doing whatever the fuck I wanted, but I had this completely devil-may-care attitude to it where I could take or leave the relationship. And I got away with whatever I wanted, and I never got any shit. If anything, she was more into me. And then as soon as I actually started living nicely and kowtowing to what she wanted, and we moved in together for a period in COVID, it went totally tits up. You know, because that's not actually what she signed up for. She actually liked, if we're using the terminology in the books, she was probably high drama, low self-esteem, right? And so she actually responded very positively to bad behavior from me. That's what she actually wanted. And then when I changed the goalpost by thinking I was doing the honourable thing, that's where things got too bad.
Yeah, and I think, yeah. And I think
how do you marry it together? How do you marry it together? Because obviously we don't want to be total scumbags, right? I think we're both on the same page where we try and want to treat people well, but what we're essentially saying there is act like an arsehole, get what you want in dating, and try and be nice and get thrown to the curb. So how do you marry those two together?
Well, I mean, but the other big piece of the puzzle is living together, is domestication, because that's the thing that I think really throws a spanner in the works, because so that's something I would need personally to think about as I go forward. Like, would I do that again? How would that look? Right? Because I think I think you can. Proximity and being in each other's space the whole time, I think, causes a lot of problems. So there's probably a middle way where you're actually not being a complete scumbag, but you're also not living in a pocket the whole time. So there is a bit of distance, there is a bit of mystery, and maybe that.
Well, for 7 years, the relationship I was in worked because we weren't living together, right? So then moving in COVID within 2 months has gone Pete's on, right? And I think you had a similar thing there. For a long time, you pretty much didn't live with the person, right? Yeah,
exactly. But if you're trying to, if we're not proposing, right, you've got to be a complete scumbag and just cheat on your girlfriend the whole time. If we're not saying that, that's not really what we're saying. Is there not a sort of an equilibrium where you could keep it going for quite a long time with somebody where you're not actually doing that? You are, but you are on your mission. You're doing your own thing, and you're not spending every waking hour with her because you're too busy and you're doing other shit, and you guys aren't living together. Would that?
I think that's doable. I think that's definitely doable. But you've got to. I think guys need to bear in mind that women are going to have nesting instincts that kick in, and they're always going to try and take a little bit more, right? And so it goes from 2 days a week to 3 days a week to 4 days a week, and they're not subconsciously trying to fuck you over, but it's what they want, because they want the necessity kills that attraction, doesn't it? So it takes a very strong man to be aware of this stuff and then actually not fall prey to it.
Well, because I mean, I would say that I am aware of it. Like I'm very aware of it. I have been for years, just because I've been in this space and making these shows and reading about it and stuff like that. And so I was very aware of it. And actually, I think I've told the story before, but I also moved in with my girlfriend for a bit during COVID. And I was really resistant to that at first, because she basically said, "Oh, you should, come and stay with me." And I didn't want to do it. And I said to her, "Look, this could go on for months. We could be stuck together for months." And I just literally said to her, "And we've got to think, how's that going to impact on the relationship? Because we haven't lived together before. Like, it's quite a big decision to move in with somebody. What if it fucks it up? Obviously, she didn't really fully get that way of thinking, and I did end up moving in with her. Now, during that period, it was actually, my experience was a little bit better. It was actually kind of okay. It was actually pretty good during COVID. But I think that might have been partly because we sort of knew on some level that it was going to come to an end at some point.
Right.
Whereas when we moved in together and it was sort of a done deal, then the power dynamic really shifts, because then they sort of know, right, they've kind of got you. haven't they? And they've got what they on the surface wanted, but then maybe on another level, subconsciously, they're thinking, did I really want this? Did I really sign up for this? You know, cleaning his underwear and, you know, having to buy toilet rolls together and stuff. I mean, is that really? I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
I think they're just quite safe by that stage, aren't they? There's just this. By the hardest game is definitely played in a monogamous relationship, and I think women just sense, right, if you're a guy who is kind of just succumbed, right? They're just like, this guy, subconsciously they just think you're a bit of a puss for actually keeling over and going along with their narrative, right?
Yeah. So
obviously, if you're playing with a family, it's very hard to think, right, how could you do that? But I guess I'd use this kind of Russian. I don't know why it has to be Russian, but this Russian businessman as an example, where he's got his apartment with the wife and the kid, and he's kind of traveling off doing his own thing. He's got his own bolt hole apartment. Maybe he spends half the time there, and maybe that's the way of still keeping it fresh. But the other thing, of course, is we both got experience with Anglosphere women, and it'd be interesting to find a similar setup with a very feminine, submissive Colombian or Argentinian or Russian or Ukrainian girl, and see how that played out, because a parallel situation. I met a girl in Odessa, and we ended up seeing each other for a period of time, and you know, that kind of parallel situation where we kind of lived together somewhat for periods of time. I could do no wrong, because I was in total control. Not in a kind of she's a slave way, but just she's very submissive by nature, and basically I could get up and do what I wanted. Maybe it's a difference with Anglosphere women, is they're just a bit more empowered to kind of push back. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I've had a couple of experiences of this over the years where I think they become, like you said, I think they become comfortable, and that's not necessarily in itself a bad thing, but that also means they become comfortable with not always necessarily treating you very well, because they're sort of like, well, maybe you have, you know, you're not engaged, you haven't put a ring on it, but nevertheless, you know, you're a step closer. She's like, got you. She doesn't see that as ending anytime soon. So then it becomes a sort of, you know, I can kind of get away with a bit more here, like, because I've got more leverage. And again, you know, I don't want to make this a sort of like a woman bashing thing or anything like that, but it's just I think it's partly human nature. But those dynamics are very difficult to manage, because I mean, you could flip it the other way. Because there are relationships, there are guys who are probably toxic, let's say, but they are super dominant, and maybe they lay down the law, and maybe they, you know, the woman is the one who's kowtowing to him. But that seems to be an exhausting thing to maintain, even if you wanted to do that, right? You know, it seems exhausting. It seems like, and not particularly fun for either party. So I think what tends to happen is, especially if you're secretly a relatively decent guy, is you do tend to make some compromise, and you know, and also some compromises. Fair enough, right? It's not like any compromise. You know, you don't want to become some sort of like manosphere caricature where like, no, there's no compromise at all. We're only going to watch war movies. We're not going to watch any, because like you're just setting yourself up for arguments all the time, and who wants that, right? So, but it's like, how much do you concede, and are you conceding too much? And it's very subtle, you know.
Really, it comes down to, if you put a gun to her head, and there's no real test for this, but if you put a gun to your head, does she still respect you? If we're being totally, there was a great video from a channel called Far From Average, and he basically said, the title of the video was, we can link it below, 15 years of game in 8 minutes. And the fundamental question it came down to, he used the analogy of like, if you're in prison, if the guys don't respect you, you get butt raped in the shower. If you're in a relationship and the woman doesn't really respect you anymore, it's very hard. It's just, everything's hard, right? And it just boxes. Whereas when she actually respects you for whatever reason, and women respect men for different things, but again, coming back to what can you do, being on your mission, constantly leveling yourself, constantly improving, maintaining that element of attraction there, some tension, not seeing her every fucking day. The relationships tend to be pretty fucking easy, don't they? Right?
Yeah, they do. But I mean, I think I suppose the bigger question, which I'm angling towards, which I'm interested in what you think, is long-term monogamy ever really possible? Is it ever really practical? Does it ever really work out? I mean, it seems to for some people, but then you can only ever see the outside.
But we just see the outward front, though. We don't see behind closed doors, and the reality is, maybe you get to a point. We're kind of cheating the system because we're both on CRT. So nature would have said by this stage, right, well, your kind of sex drive's dropped off a bit, so sayonara. But because we're on CRT, we've basically artificially extended the shelf life of horniness indefinitely. It's like as a man, you're really going to be with one girl, possibly. I mean, the scenario I could see myself in where I would be happy dating one girl is basically we can go out, we can do stuff together, pick up other women, stuff like that. Or she just kind of turns a blind eye to the fact, when I'm away, I'll do well, right? And, I don't rub in on face, but there's the option of variety there. And the irony is, if she's actually very chill, this is where maybe women get it wrong. If they were in effect very chill with that arrangement, the guy's probably in a way less likely to act on it. It's when they start down these hard and fast rules, like you can't do this, you can't do this. Automatically, human nature, men and women, we want to push back against that line and be like, no, you know what, fuck you. I'm going to secretly fuck you over behind your back.
So. But yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. But for me, it's, I mean, maybe because I'm a bit older or whatever. I mean, for me, it was less about the variety. It's not like I don't. I mean, yeah, obviously, I like variety, blah blah, whatever. But it was actually less about that in the end. It was more about, okay, actually, I can conceivably do this monogamous thing with one person. That wasn't so much the problem. It's just, is the day-to-day going to be pleasant, or is it not going to be pleasant? Are you going to make things really difficult for me all the time or not? And if you're signing up for, all right, I'm going to forego the variety, I'm going to just be with you, and it's going to be you and me against the world, fine. But it's also it's also got to be pleasant as well. It's got to be kind of, you don't want to feel like you're walking on eggshells the whole time. Because if you are, then what are you really getting out of it? And that,
this is where this disrespect piece you were talking about came in, and it was kind of like I had a similar thing with my experience, which is just they're not really interested in what your interests are anymore. They're kind of calling you out sometimes, and not necessarily defending you in public, and that's putting it through that test of do they still respect you or not. It's kind of signals they don't, isn't it? And at that point, I think once respect is lost, your only option as a guy is really to walk away. I think once you lose, the woman loses respect for you, I think it's very hard to get it back.
Well, I was going to say, I was going to ask you actually. In fact, I was going to ask you, I think privately, like, do you think it can ever be got back? I'm not sure it can, except maybe through some sort of hard reset. Like you literally split up for a bit, and then maybe you get back together. But I'm not even sure that would work, because I think you might have. I think what would happen is you split up for a bit, then maybe because I've experienced this. You have a bit of a honeymoon period where things are good. And then it just reverts back, So I'm not sure. I just don't know that there's any easy answers to this, really, unless you're gonna.
So I've had it before. I've had it before, ironically, with girls I first saw in like Colombia 5 years ago, right, when I was a lot more green with this stuff. I've kind of just run back into them all years later when I've obviously hedonistic as fuck, but I've gone through deliberate leveling up of my character, got better at Spanish, in better shape, better socially, and I've seen them again, and actually. They kind of maybe drifted off previously, and this time round, I've totally cool, owning the shots, and actually it has been reinvigorated years later, and they're all over it, and I get bored and walk away. So I think if you have a period of time off and you relentlessly level up your character, I mean, guys always talk about this on the forums, right? I don't know who these mystical people are, but that you were the dude in high school not getting laid, but then you relentlessly actually leveled up, and suddenly the same girl a few years later is kind of wanting when she's jaded. I mean, I've had it before where the girl was 18 and now she's only 23, so she's not past it, but clearly completely into it. So I think you can do that. The obvious thing as well is not relevant for most guys, but if you suddenly rocket into fame, right, that's the ultimate aphrodisiac that's going to throw everything out the window. If you went from a non-famous, not much respect, to famous, presumably that's going to create the same circumstance in her brain, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think that would change the game significantly, or probably.
But it's very hard if you don't change your character to, if she's lost respect for you and you don't do anything different, you essentially have to walk away. And then maybe she sees you with some other women, WhatsApp status, that triggers some jealousy. But it's, unfortunately, I think, and this is going to be heartbreaking for a lot of guys because they're in a relationship, they've invested 7 years with a woman maybe, but they've just become a bit of a puss and the woman no longer respects them. You kind of have to walk away. And this is again where the Mark Manson advice of what's the only real dating advice, relentlessly leveling up your character is accurate. Because if you're relentlessly trying to get better across the board, even if one girl drops off, you're always going to have a new suitors appearing, right?
Yeah.
So, it's fascinating. But yes, practically, what can guys do? Relentlessly level themselves up. Right.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I think to be completely fair here, I don't know what your view on this is. I don't think women are. I don't think we're saying women are sort of secretly sitting there twirling their moustaches like planned. I hope none of your exes have got moustaches.
Mr. M's definitely got moustache.
They're twirling their moustaches, secretly plotting this stuff. Like, oh, how can I find this guy over? I don't think it's that. I just think there's just a bug in the system because like you said. I mean, women tend to they want to lock things down, right? So they're like, if she likes you, she's into you. It's like, oh, why don't we spend more time together? Why don't we move in? Oh, we should get married, blah, blah, blah. Like they're always looking to push it to the next level. Whereas a lot of guys, well, not a lot of guys, but guys like us are probably like trying to put the brakes on the whole time. They're trying to move it forward. But then when you do move it forward, you actually end up getting more friction, which is really, really confusing, even for guys who know a bit about this stuff, because you sort of think, well, hang on, I'm sort of giving you what you wanted, and things are becoming more difficult, not less, And I think it's just human nature, because you sort of, what it's the same with anything, isn't it? You want a new iPhone, so you get a new iPhone, and then you're like, a day later, you're like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. The first day you get it out of the box, you're like, oh, it's really cool, blah, blah, blah. A couple of days later, you're just like, yeah, all right, what's next, And I think it's like that probably for women with guys, she's like, oh, I really want to feel that security, I want him to move in, blah, blah, blah. And then he does move in, and then she's like, yeah, all right, this is all right, but, it's, I don't know, you know what I mean?
I agree with you. Whenever I've been seeing girls and playing the archetype that they sign up for, which is kind of this devil-may-care guy who's got options, they love it. And as soon as I kowtow to any kind of segue for a little bit more commitment or blah blah blah, it's all consistent. Like with different prospects, they all kind of are like, "What the fuck is he doing that for?" It's almost like the myth has been shattered.
But if that's the case, then how does anybody ever have a relationship? Because
I'm not sure they do. There's a 60% divorce rate in the UK, right? I mean, there must be countless more marriages where people are dramatically unhappy, but they're just too fucking scared to get divorced, right? Because it's always fair.
Yeah.
I think the dating market in the Anglo sphere is totally fucked up. I really do.
Who was it? Black Dragon or whatever he's called, Caleb Jones. He did a blog once where he said that it can work out if both of the parties are very low sex drive and probably don't have very many options, because then it's almost like, well, we're just kind of lucky to have met each other, really, and let's just bumble along, and I'm not actually that bothered about anything else anyway. I think the problem comes in if you're a guy who, for whatever reason, you're good game, good looking, bit of fame or whatever, you've got options, you're going to always be thinking in the back of your head, oh, well, maybe I could get somebody better. And certainly with her, if she's attractive or whatever, she's probably more likely than you to have options as well. So there's always going to be that thing. And there's always, I think there's always, and maybe this is in my head as much as anything, but there's always a problem in relationships with women where you always think on some level she's comparing you to the other dudes that she could be with, Well,
I think she is. I think, unfortunately, she is, right? And as we are as well, presumably being like, oh, fuck, I wish my girlfriend was that hot or that feminine, but that's natural. Again, that's human nature that we want to know if we're getting a good deal, don't we? So it's I think parking the male. I think a lot of these problems can be solved, to be honest, in from a self perspective, by kind of parking the ego a bit, because I think a lot of the problems when it comes to men and relationships are egoic, isn't it? Because we're thinking, right, who she fucked previously, how do I rate on her emotional leaderboard? It's all ego, isn't it? Really. what is the person now in the present. We shouldn't hold our pass against her. You know, if we've signed up to that. Now, obviously, there's a difference there. If you've been tricked into thinking she's got a very low body count, she ends up she's actually banging like 100 dudes. Yeah, but that's you're not doing your research properly at the beginning.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know really.
Basically, there's no real solution to Anglosphere dating. Get the fuck out of the Anglosphere. Join us. Colombia for Feria de Cali, the big party coming up, and 26th of December till the 3rd of January. We're going to be running alongside with our two
trustee
cohort, two trustees, Mickey and Mr. David Garcia, both very adept gentlemen at this, more mature in years, running the House of Seduction model, which is you live with the clients. The coach are living with the clients in the house. It's going to be awesome. And Feria de Cali is amazing. Cali is probably the friendliest city in Colombia. And Feria de Cali is when all of the girls from all around come in for a salsa festival. Not throwing salsa, but actually, the dance, right? So in clubs, packed with stunners from all over Colombia. Awesome time of year to be there. Bright sunshine, highly recommend it. So if that's something of interest, get in touch. And then, of course, the one after that, 13th to the 21st of February, Rio Carnival 2026. Always an extravaganza.
You have to come to Rio Carnival. If nothing else, well, you need to go to Cali, but if you can't do that, you need to come to Rio Carnival because it is the biggest event on the calendar, and we're all going to be there in force. And it's last year it was kind of like the filming of Apocalypse Now, wasn't it? This year it was sort of quite emotional, but it's just such an extraordinary event. There's so many just beautiful women there, beautiful people there. It's just an amazing party atmosphere. Anything goes. So you absolutely need to be there next February. So again, you can email us, troy@realtroyfrancis.com or info@jamesandtusk.com. Because the thing with this stuff is that, we bang on about this and guys get in touch and then, we'll get on a call with you and, we'll see if you're a good fit and whatever. A lot of guys obviously watch this and they never get in touch, and that's fine. That's your prerogative. It's up to you. You can sit there and not, just take the free content and not do anything. But the reality of the matter is that actually you need to, if you're not getting great results, and presumably if you're watching this, you're watching it for a reason. I imagine there's not many guys on here who are watching this because they're like, oh, I'm having a fantastic dating life, but I think I'll just watch these two buffoons chatting nonsense on a Saturday afternoon for the sake of it. Maybe there's a couple of people on meth who are just like, they've just come onto this by mistake or whatever. But for the most part, people are here because their dating life isn't where they want it to be. And actually, the genuine, and it sounds like a sales pitch, it kind of is, but it's also true. The way to level up is to get out there, to get thrown into as many interactions as you can, and to have people actually looking at you and watching what you do and correcting it as you go along. That is the fastest and the best way to get better at this stuff. And it's more essential now than it's ever been because, well,
it's also just fucking fun. Like, I've been doing this, traveling the world for 7 years, but I still forget how exciting it is if you're a newbie and you're coming out to meet us in Bogota or Mexico City or Rio Carnival, right? And you're charging around and suddenly you've got loads of women who are interested in you because you're foreign, and you go back with a few of them and you go on some dates and you're with cool guys and having fun. It's a fucking amazing experience to have. It's an adventure. Yeah. People need to do it more. I'm sitting there like in the city they're in, not really dating. But get on a fucking plane. We live in such a beautiful time. You can be anywhere in the world within 24 hours. All you do is book the ticket, take the ride. So fantastic opportunity whilst we're still doing this still to actually join us in some of these places and have fun dating, right? And it's a beautiful thing. Again, I saw it yesterday with this Joe character where, we were out and after a couple of conversations, he suddenly meets a really hot girl and they go on a date that night and he's got this amazing experience he'll never forget of dating this really hot, Argentinian model in Mexico City who's 30 years younger than him and having a really good time. And he's literally created that by having the balls to see another human being he likes and just go and banter with them. It's a beautiful thing. Especially now, the world is only going one way in terms of the digital stuff. Yes, it is important to have an Instagram presence, right? Yes, I do agree with that. But still, the basis for all of this stuff, leveling yourself up as a man, is dating. If you can't go and speak to hot girls you see in the street sober, that's something you need to address as a man, right? You were built to talk to the sex. right? And if you can't do it, which 99% of guys cannot do, you need to work on that. And it's a beautiful thing to work on.
You need to work on it. And even if you're still just meeting people, say you're meeting people through the dating apps or whatever, okay, fine. But you've still got to meet up with them. You've still got to at least go for a drink with them, or whatever you're going to do. You're going to have to. There's going to be some sort of initial meeting. You're not just going to be late. Well, it's very. In most cases, it's unlikely you're just going to be laying in a bed and she's going to get delivered in a taxi and get straight to bed with you, right? There's going to be some preliminary conversation, even if it's just a quick drink, right? And you can fumble it at that stage if you're not socially adept. And the problem is that more and more of us now are not socially adept because we're just sitting on our phones all day, talking to ChatGPT. So apparently some of us, and not actually interacting with real life human beings, and that's a huge problem because it's one thing. I mean, look, the other thing is the dating apps are struggling as well. I mean, I keep reading reports about numbers are down on the dating apps, the share prices are down, revenue's down, people are leaving the platform. So I don't really know what the fuck people are going to do because if people aren't using that, I mean, maybe Instagram, I don't know. But
Instagram is, according to the Psytax guy, Instagram is the number 1 dating app. But anyway, it does, as the point you're making, it doesn't replace the need to socialize in life. Yeah,
but even if, okay, so let's say, forget dating apps. Say you sort out your Instagram, which we can actually help you to do. So get in touch with us if you're interested in that. But you sort out your Instagram, you get a really good Instagram, and you start meeting girls through Instagram. The same thing applies because you're still going to have to meet them in real life. And if you meet them in real life and you're a flannel, it doesn't really matter how great your Instagram was. You can still fumble it at that point. So even if...
And actually, I've had a number of guys recently get in touch with that exact problem. They've got these beautifully curated Instagrams, but they haven't worked on themselves. And the girl turns up and she's like, hold on a second, because they've kind of AI'd themselves to make themselves better looking. And they haven't worked on their social skills. So they're unable to flirt, banter, tease women. It's a learned fucking skill. And so at some stage, you need to do it. You need to take the Joseph Campbell quote from The Hero with 1,001 Faces. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Which is, let's be honest, every man, bar none, would love the ability to see any hot girl, any place, anytime, anywhere, be able to walk up, banter a bit, potentially take a number. And it's a very learnable skill that you can learn to do.
But the thing is, so here's the thing. So the skill set is transferable because what we teach primarily, we do teach dates, actually. We do teach dating skills. Like we have students who are on dates and we can observe the date and we can even in some cases pass them advice while they're actually on the date. So we do that. But a lot of what we're teaching is more approach, right? Go and talk to her, have a conversation with her. But those skills, if you've done that 500 times, your date skills, i.e. sitting on a date that's been prearranged, are going to be 10x, 100x what they would have been. Because you've already done something that's even harder, which is talk to a stranger in the street and have to come up with things to say and be funny and flirty and witty and stuff. So compared to that, actually sitting down and having a couple of drinks with somebody in a nice bar is pretty easy. So even if, say, cold approach or whatever you want to call it, doesn't become your main funnel, it doesn't really matter because the skills that you're getting from that, the social skills that you're getting from that, are still massively valuable.
100%.
So that's why this stuff is so important. And I would argue getting more important because, I mean, fuck knows how AI is going to affect all of this, but I can't see it being anything good. Do you know what I mean? I think it's just in more fake profiles, more just weird tomfoolery going on, So yeah, you need the real life stuff is actually oddly the cutting edge now.
It's also fun. It's just fun. It's fun to charge around with a few guys and have some conversations, go on a date with a cute girl you've just met in a shopping mall or in the street. Yeah. It's a great way to live life. And
yeah, exactly. Well,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say. I mean, I would rate my date game pretty highly now. Generally speaking, I'm pretty. I never feel pre-date nerves or anything like that. I go on the date with her. I'm usually from the off. I'm usually on. I can come up with things to say. I can banter with her. I can flirt. Blah blah blah. All of that. But those skills. I mean, I've been on a shitload of dates, but also I've done even more approaches. Thousands and thousands of approaches, which means that I'm very used to talking to women and thinking of things to say, basically, which is a big problem.
But also, if you put that back to probably the early days, your first few dates. I mean, how clunky and awkward would they have been in comparison? showcasing it is absolutely a learned skill, this stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, after a while, you start to learn what. I mean, there's a lot of variables because obviously every woman's different. Not some woman may take something you say as a joke, another woman might get offended or whatever. But in general, you know, you start to see what kind of lands, you start to see what kind of persona you can put across that's congruent with you, that's authentic, that's sort of magnetic, that works in most cases. And but that is learnable, you know. But it does take. It's not something for me. It wasn't something that was natural. It wasn't something I just got overnight. It's taken many years, you know. It doesn't need to take people watching. Like if you're watching this, it doesn't need to take you many years because we could teach you all the stuff that we know very quickly. But it took me a long time because I didn't know what the hell I was doing, you know, and there wasn't the wealth of information that there is out there now, you know. And this is, by the way, just as a sort of pitch for the human touch as opposed to AI. I did a video about this the other day. I think you've done a video actually on this. I don't know if you've released it yet, talking about ChatGPT. How good is ChatGPT as a wingman, or whatever AI platform you want to use? The problem is, he's disappeared. The problem is that if you use ChatGPT or you use an AI platform to give you lines to say, to give you stuff to say, to give you ideas, you know, for jokes, for witticisms, for, you know, cute things, cute strategies, gambits and stuff like that. If your inputs aren't very good, and they're unlikely to be very good because you don't know what you're doing, right? You know, if you're in that newbie stage, then what it gives you is also then not going to be very good. Okay, so you know, the outputs that it gives you aren't going to be very good. So this is why, and I know this sounds like a naked sales pitch, and maybe in a way it is, but it's also true. This is why in-person coaching, or at least coaching with real people, is so important, because AI is just not good enough to give you the perfect line to say. A lot of the stuff that, I mean, I experiment with it quite a lot, and some of the stuff it comes up, sometimes it comes up with some okay stuff, but a lot of the time the stuff that it comes out with is too try hard, it's a bit cheesy, it's a bit like, and you think if I actually said that would land really badly. You know?
Well, there's a video me and Les just released of me literally using the boss to approach, and it gets more and more woke as the time goes on, to the point where it doesn't want me approaching at all, and I have to override it constantly. We've got. I'm going to have to hop off because I've got to go to a session with the lads. But great quote from Henry. The boss is always watching thing you always say to us has me thinking of a weird situation of a man watching someone pork his wife. You've been watching too much porn, Henry. The one above that is Henry's comment. 2 above.
Oh, this one, yeah. The boss is always watching. Well, you know, whatever you're into, man.
Whatever you're into.
Yeah,
you know?
Indeed. Do you want to hop off now, or are you?
Yes, I've got to go. But if guys want to get in touch, we've got a new course coming out where we're revamping the Approach Accelerator course, myself, Troy, and Les. So 10 weeks to learn this stuff remotely if you can't travel to see us. So get in touch about that. Send us an email, info@jamestuss.com or troy@realtroyfrance.com with the title Approach Accelerator course. And or join us in Cali, Colombia for 26th of December to the 3rd of Jan this year, or Rio Carnival. Send us an email about those.
Absolutely, yes. And any other questions, of course. So troy@realtroyfrancis.com or info@jamestuss.com. Drop us an email and we will get back to you. Put your WhatsApp details in if you can as well, because it's always good to get on the call so we can make sure there's a good fit and everything like that. All right, guys. Sorry we didn't get to the questions today, but we'll do another one of these soon. So hold that thought and we'll be back with you very soon.